It's often said that first-time visitors to Wentworth Woodhouse mistook the stables building for the house itself. And that's not surprising when you see the scale of the stables buildings.
No country estate would have been complete without stables to accommodate the horses, and Wentworth Woodhouse was no exception. The original stables are thought to have been at the east end of the house's north tower, but in 1766 all this was to change. Charles Watson Wentworth, 2nd Marquis of Rockingham, who was to hold the position of Prime Minister twice, was a lover of horses. He employed the services of John Carr, the leading architect in the north of England, to design a new stables and riding school complex, and this is the one we see today. There was also a saddlery and a courtyard with an enormous fountain for the horses to drink from.
It was an extensive project, started in 1766, but not completed until 1783. Accounts show the purchase of 1,194 feet of English fir timber, oak timber, stone from the nearby Huber Quarry, and 499 feet of glass. Throughout the early years of the building project, over 40 workmen were on the site, including 20 masons and 13 carpenters. In December 1767, early building costs totaled over £639. That's approximately £75,000 today, a huge sum. And there were still 16 more years of costs to come. Hearsay is the money for the project came from the racing success of Whistlejacket, one of the Marquis's horses famously painted by George Stubbs. He only lost 4 races throughout his racing career. But Whistlejacket was not bought by the Marquis until about 1756 and retired to stud only 3 years later. But it's a better story than the more mundane suggestion of the funds generated through agriculture and forestry.
Once completed, Wentworth's private stables were the largest in England and remained so until the late 1900s. The stables had space for 84 horses, plus coaches, carriages and dog carts, as well as accommodation for grooms, coachmen and other employees. The census of 1891 recorded 30 people living there.
When the advent of the motor car gradually replaced the horse as the main means of transport, the stables took on a new role. The 7th Earl, Billy Wentworth Fitzwilliam, had a keen interest in motor cars, and in the early part of the 20th century, a new garage was built behind the old carriage houses. As fewer staff were needed, rooms became vacant, and from 1930, the eastern half of the north range of the stables became the estate offices, with plans for a muniment room.
During World War II, Wentworth Woodhouse stables were requisitioned by the Military Intelligence Corps. By late October 1942, the depot, quartermaster, and other ranks occupied the stables, while the HQ and officers moved into the main house 6 months later. The cookhouse and naffy, or canteen, took over the riding school, and the men were accommodated in Nissen huts opposite the stables, where derelict student accommodation now stands.
In addition, the stables also provided accommodation for 2-wheeled machines, motorcycles. The Army used it as the base for a 3-week motorcycle training course recorded on film. The course recruits were housed in the stables, their quarters named after famous British battles. Accommodation was described as quite luxurious, with single beds and hot and cold water.
The stables were to undergo significant change as plans were drawn up for an extensive conversion to suit the needs of the Lady Mabel College of Physical Education. The buildings were transformed into classrooms, a laboratory, libraries, and staff and student accommodation. The riding school became a gymnasium, and additional changing rooms, showers, and toilets were added in what would have been an open courtyard.
The stables were to remain in educational use until the college was taken over by Sheffield Polytechnic in 1979. The Polytechnic later became part of Sheffield Hallam University, but the university relinquished the lease on the house and stables in 1988. From this point, Wentworth Woodhouse was to go through a long period of decline, and the stables were to suffer the same fate.
When the Wentworth Woodhouse Preservation Trust acquired the site in 2017, immediate action had to focus on the house to rectify important issues like the seriously leaking mansion roof, The focus of the Trust at that time was very much on the needs of the buildings and the many areas which were in a dangerous state of decay or at risk of collapse. If you visited us over the last couple of years, or if you followed our progress on our YouTube channel, you'll know that with the emergency repairs largely completed, the focus of the Trust has shifted. It's essential that the 83-acre site and its buildings can generate enough revenue to ensure the financial sustainability of Wentworth Woodhouse. That's why we're so proud of the success of our award-winning regeneration of the Camellia House, which is now a hugely popular and revenue-generating tea room and event space. Back at the stables, we've demolished the old college buildings and swimming pool, with the site now a new car park. And more recently, we've completely remodelled one corner of the old stables buildings to become a production kitchen and a new cafe. When it opens to the public, the car park will form part of a new visitor route through the stables to the house and gardens, and will be able to showcase the newly regenerated news court. But all of this is just the beginning of a much wider planned programme of works, creating a sustainable future for the stables and for Wentworth Woodhouse itself. The project will be completed gradually to the highest standards deserving of this Grade 1 listed building, so it will take time and a considerable sum of money. But the potential of the stables to become a major revenue generator for Wentworth Woodhouse makes the success of this challenge essential. These long neglected buildings hold the key to securing not just their own future, but the financial sustainability of the whole Wentworth Woodhouse site. If you want to find out more about our plans for this magnificent place, do subscribe for free to our channel and watch out for an exciting announcement later this year about what we plan to do next.